Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end. Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to listen to my show, and thank you, Bold Brave Television, for giving me this beautiful opportunity. So today I want to talk about using our imaginations to create our reality. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it easy? Well, I guess that's always a matter of perspective. It does require some effort and some commitment. If it was easy to change our automatic thoughts and our beliefs, our deeply rooted beliefs, then there would be no use for interventions like mental health therapy or even deep meditation or any of these kind of affirmations, all of these things we're going to talk about today. We just take notice and snap our fingers and it would go away. Wouldn't that be amazing? Holy cow. But so it's not that simple, but it is certainly possible. I was listening to Bob Proctor the other day. So Bob Proctor, he's passed away a couple of years ago, but he's a Canadian self-help author who said many great things. And I really like the sound of his voice. He's very calming to me. So I love people's words. One of the things that Bob Proctor, one of his more famous quotes was that you are the only problem you will ever have, and you are also the only solution. Pretty simple and brilliant at the same time. So in the clip that I was watching of Bob Proctor, he was talking about how our imagination is, and I quote, the most miraculous, inconceivably powerful force that the world has ever known. So we have the potential to use our imaginations to create the most incredible realities. But what do we do instead? Instead, we use our imaginations to imagine what we don't want to happen. We imagine the worst. This is what anxiety is, right? When you look into the future and imagine all the things that can go wrong, that's anxiety. That creates anxiety. So yeah, looking into the future and using our beautiful imaginations to imagine the worst. So if we can do this with such great ease, and trust me, I know about doing this with great ease, for I suffered from anxiety for the longest time until I was able to shed that version of myself and have better control over my thoughts. So I do know how easy it is. If we can do that so easily, we can do the opposite and use it to look into the future and create things, great things for ourselves. So we can use our imagination to go into the future and literally bring things into our present, into our reality. I have a work contract that where I work with preschools in our community, and these are children who are ages between the ages of 3 and 5. I'm always so impressed by their use of imagination. They live in their imagination, and it's even honored at that age. It's used as a learning. It's used for the purpose of learning. So there's always these imaginative play areas set up in a preschool classroom. So these kids, they're like putting on that doctor's coat and they're taking each other's temperatures, and they love giving each other imaginary shots. And, they can take a tub of magnet tiles and build an entire city just in a moment's time. And what they're doing is they're bringing their incredible creations from their imagination into their present world, into their present life. They're picturing it in their minds and then they're creating it. It's like they do it automatically. And then what happens? Then they go to the big school, the elementary school. Now, I'm not saying that there's no use of imagination in elementary schools. I'm not saying that at all, but there's a clear difference between preschool and elementary school. All of a sudden they have all these expectations placed on them that it begins this process of conditioning them or conditioning us out of the use of our imagination. They're told things like pay attention when a child's mind is wandering. Um, Stop daydreaming, as though that's a bad thing. You need to focus and listen. Put that away. We're not playing right now. When a kid is usually, or like literally has the head of an eraser or something and is imagining a spaceship. So, they say things like, this child lacks focus. Well, yeah, they're 5. Of course they lack focus. So it stands to reason that by the time we reach adulthood, we have had the automatic ability to utilize our amazing imagination conditioned right out of us. It's that phrase, seeing is believing. Well, why do we have to see it to believe it? I asked my husband the other day, do you believe in aliens? And he said, well, I've never seen one. I'm like, I didn't ask if you'd seen one. I asked if you believed in them. So my poor sweetheart, he has been conditioned right out of his beautiful imagination, and has the possibility has been conditioned right out of him. The thought of possibility. Anyway, I believe in everything. Ask anybody who knows me. I believe in everything. All right. So by the time we're adults, also we have all these limiting beliefs about ourselves instilled within us, and we fall into these patterns of only using our imagination to create negative patterns and limited thinking. That's, I'm not good enough. That's where that comes from. So that's one of the most common limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough, that we use our imagination to reinforce and create. We imagine ourselves not being good enough. We imagine ourselves failing, and then we repeat it over and over and over again. So Bob Proctor, he talks so eloquently about returning back to these higher faculties, going beyond the 5 senses. I can remember learning about our senses. We have 5 senses. We can see, we can hear, we can touch, we can smell, we can taste, as though those are our only senses that we have. But what about our higher faculties? What about perception and intuition and reason and, yes, imagination? So Mr. Proctor, he said that only 2 to 3% of the population uses these higher faculties that we're all gifted with. So, we all have the incredible power, this incredible power of imagination that we choose not to utilize. We choose not to honor it or use it. I was really struck by one quote from him, and this was like a heavy dose of reality. So he said, the average person tiptoes through life hoping to make it safely to death. It's a shame. Holy cow, Bob. That's a heavy dose of reality, but I mean, he's right. And, it's a really strong statement regarding how we really squander our infinite human potential, and squandering our imaginations is an example of that. So I'm here to tell you that we don't have to be that way. And Bob was here to tell us that as well. Thank you, Bob. There's no one person who's more creative than the next. We are all equally creative in our own unique way. When we choose to use our imagination to create incredible images in our minds, we open ourselves up to possibility. We create energy. We literally create a vibration in our vessel, our body. And within our body, our new reality can be created. So we create an amazing image that then creates a vibration, that then creates a feeling that moves us into creating our reality. So this is how we can create the life that we want. That's kind of the recipe. So again, thank you, Bob, for those amazing, inspiring words and that heavy dose of reality. All right, so I decided to take a look at the amazing work that is being done in the world around using our imagination to create our reality, to create our incredible reality. So today I want to begin by just talking briefly about limiting beliefs and thoughts, and then talk about work that can be done in our conscious mind using imaging and better pictures and better words to bring about a better reality. And then I want to go take it all the way to incredible changes that can come when we use our brilliant imaginations to create change in our subconscious minds. So, and that's going to be a discussion based on in brain science, not woo-woo, but brain science. So let's see, limiting thoughts and beliefs. They are no joke. These are the thoughts and beliefs that come from our experiences. All of our experiences have emotions attached to them, and those experiences with the strongest emotions attached are the ones that shape our belief system. Experiences that exist, memories that exist within our subconscious mind. So this is where negative thought patterns come from, automatic negative thoughts that exist within our subconscious minds. Now remember, 95% of our thinking happens, of our daily thinking happens in our subconscious mind. It is what is driving the bus, so to speak, coloring our perception, creating our reality. So this is where our beliefs about relationship exist. Can't they be trusted? Do they bring joy? Do they bring pain? Is love safe? Do we matter to others? Are we worthy of love and respect? Is the world safe? Are we lovable? Are we good enough? The answer, our own individual answers to these questions, all lie within our subconscious minds, and they're based upon our past experiences and the emotions attached, and that's how we create our reality. So these beliefs are challenging to get past. I get it. Is it difficult? Sure. Is it possible? Absolutely. So, all of these thoughts and beliefs, they really begin from the moment we enter this world, or I would argue even before we enter this world. So let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. I remember doing a hypnotherapy session with a woman who had a severe trauma history, and she had great difficulty around eating. Such fear and anxiety around eating that some days she couldn't even bring herself to do it. And we all have to eat, right? This is important, a really serious issue that she had. So in hypnotherapy, she was regressed back to the cause of the issue, going back to the very originating event that set this issue into motion. That's what we do in hypnotherapy. We access the subconscious mind by just inducing a very relaxed state. It's a theta brainwave state. And in this state, the nervous system goes to sleep, which allows the subconscious mind to come forward and take the reins. And our conscious mind kind of steps back, steps aside, while our subconscious mind is accessed, and that's where the magic happens. So in going back to the very originating scene, she regressed all the way back to a memory before her actual birth. So this was an in utero memory. And I asked her to describe what was happening. She said that she felt as though she was being poisoned by her mother. She could feel foul substances going into her body through the umbilical cord. And she described what she was feeling in full detail. She said also that she could hear loud voices as though there was a party going on. Her mother was laughing and using drugs, she said. And she felt this overwhelming sadness. It felt that her mother didn't care at all about her, didn't care at all about her health. So through this regression to these experiences, we did healing. We did healing around those memories, and we released those emotions that were attached to those experiences, and we created the change in her subconscious mind. And then incredible images were instilled in her subconscious mind that were the opposite of what that experience provided. So this was done by creating an image in her mind of nutritious meals being, taken into her body. They were healthy, they were safe, they were appetizing. Images of her calmly preparing meals and sitting down for a meal, and also images about being completely deserving of both physical and emotional health, all through visualization. Images that were utilized and placed into her imagination. She used her imagination to bring all of that to life. I checked up on her a few months later, and she was working with a nutritionist, and she was eating 3 small meals a day. There was huge improvement. All of that happened in hypnotherapy through her imagination. So I just use that as an example to show how far these kind of beliefs and thoughts go. We could even go farther back into like the metaphysical world and past lives, but we'll save that for a different show. So there's immense value in using our imagination to create something different in our lives. But what's the best way to do this? In the next segment, we're going to go into that. We're going to look at how we do this, ways we can do this in our conscious mind. And then we're going to, in the following segment, go into the subconscious mind. So please stay tuned. It's time to take a commercial break. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. I'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you for joining me once again. Today I'm talking about how we can use our incredible imaginations to create an incredible life for ourselves. So if it is true, what Bob Proctor said, our imaginations are the most miraculous, inconceivably powerful force that the world has ever known, which I wholeheartedly believe. How do we harness this miraculous power and use it to create the incredible life that we want? So let's first take a look at how we can use this in our conscious mind. So I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I work in people's conscious minds all the time. This is what we do. We do cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness, dialectical behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, all of these different kind of therapy models where we work in the conscious mind to shift thoughts to create change. So, this is the primary focus is really on changing a person's thinking, thought patterns to create changes in behaviors. So we teach coping skills, we make connections between actions and thoughts and feelings and past experiences, and we talk about regulating emotional states. All of this done in the conscious mind. Now, I would argue that all of this takes a certain degree of imagination. I'm always offering new perspectives to clients. I'm reframing thoughts. I'm painting pictures of a different way of being, offering different possibilities. I promote visualizations that calm your mind and body, and even breathing exercises require some imagination to just focus on your breathing and imagine that air going in and out of your body, maybe a balloon in your belly going in and out. Even problem solving takes a certain degree of imagination, because you have to think, okay, this is the problem, and then imagine a productive outcome to that. Now, I've witnessed clients make great progress in standard mental health therapy. I really have. I've done it for years. I still do it with people. But I will say that it's a longer process, because when you're working in the conscious mind, we have to get past all these barriers. We have to first off discover the barriers that exist and then get past them. And our conscious minds put up a lot of walls as protection. So it is a longer process, but things block progress. But it is certainly beneficial and possible. So I do believe there's so much benefit to identifying negative thoughts and beliefs that we hold within ourselves and replacing them with more positive thoughts. So I often use the saying, exterminate the ants, when I'm working with people. And it's just like a little saying that you can use to draw your awareness, your conscious awareness, to unconscious thoughts. Now, ANTS is an acronym for automatic negative thoughts. So when you have an automatic negative thought pop up into your head, you can say, exterminate the ants, and just knock it right out of there and replace it with a positive thought. That's just like a little tool that you can use. So around Valentine's Day, I often do an exercise with clients where I use Valentine's Day as a time to focus on love, with self-love being the most important love of all to focus on. Now, I'm kind of a DIY kind of therapist, so I got some red paper and I cut out some big red hearts, and then I got some gray paper and cut out some kind of like, dark and dingy looking hearts. And I asked my clients to write positive things, thoughts and beliefs in the red hearts, and then negative thoughts and beliefs about themselves in the gray hearts. So I was, this kind of allowed the opportunity to draw awareness to the thoughts and thoughts we think and the words that we use to describe ourselves, to think about ourselves. And it allowed an opportunity for me to talk about the importance of choosing more positive words for ourselves, to promote our own physical and mental health. Now, I also had a little flair for the dramatic, after they wrote in the gray hearts, I draw a big line down the middle, like the heart's breaking and dying, just to show the negative impact that these thoughts and beliefs have on ourselves. Now, I want to share some of the words that my clients came up with. I do have permission, I won't use names, but I will say that these were all words that children I work with came up with. So they ranged in age from 8 years old to 17 years old. These are all negative words and thoughts that children put in their gray hearts. Not good enough showed up in many of the gray hearts, as you might suspect. Other gray words included burden, self-centered. Now, that gets back to like whenever we sing our praises, somebody saying, kind of snuffing out our fire and saying, you're no better than anybody else. So self-centered, weak, bossy, annoying, keep secrets, nobody loves you, I don't love myself, don't let anyone in. These are things children came up with to put in their dark, dingy hearts. Now, one child in particular was able to even track a thought pattern between the words she had. Now, she actually drew arrows between the words and thoughts. The pattern started with the word unsafe, and then it was connected to the word left, then alone, sad, mad, don't matter, and it ended with shut up. So, unsafe, left, alone, sad, mad, don't matter, shut up. Wow, now this is the foundation this child is building her self-image upon, big cracks based on her experience. So I just just want to balance this out real quick by saying some of the positive red heart words that these same children came up with, just so we can bring ourselves up a little bit. So some of those words were smart, kind, beautiful, helpful, sparkly, love that one, nice, athletic, funny. So those are words that were in the red hearts as well. And those are words that we will focus on, and as we're processing through the negative emotions or the negative thoughts that these children had. All right, so when I think about changing the words we use and the thoughts that we have on a conscious level, I think of the work of the amazing Louise Hay. So I don't know if you're familiar with Louise Hay, but she is an author, an inspirational teacher. She has passed away now, but she spent her career helping people discover their potential for personal growth and self-healing. And she did this in large part by teaching people to bring their awareness and attention to the words they use and the thoughts that they have. And then she encouraged people to change them. And this I would argue requires the use of imagination, the ability to see other possibilities. It seems simple, but she certainly didn't minimize this struggle by any means. So she has lots of books that you can buy on Amazon, even workbooks for doing this. So here's a quote from one of those books, and the book is called "You Can Heal Your Life." It's kind of a long quote, but it's so important. What we think about ourselves becomes the truth for us. I believe that everyone, myself included, is responsible for everything in our lives, the best and the worst. Every thought we think is creating our future. Each one of us creates our experiences by our thoughts and our feelings. The thoughts we think and the words we speak create our experiences. No person, no place, and no thing has any power over us, for we are the only thinkers in our mind. When we create peace and harmony and balance in our minds, then we'll find it in our lives. I love that quote. So she also points out that we often choose only negative thoughts. And if we refuse to think positive thoughts, if we can refuse to think positive thoughts, then we can certainly choose to think the opposite. We can choose to think positive thoughts. We can refuse to think negative thoughts. All of this is possible. So she also says, if you have a strong belief that you are not deserving, not good enough, how can you possibly expect to create a loving, joyous, healthy, and prosperous life? Well, you can't, because you don't deserve it, right? So often when I'm thinking about these things, I think of one of my former guests. I think of lots of former guests and things that they've said. But one passage in Louise Hay's book in particular makes me think of my dear friend and friend of the show, Ash Benavides. Now, Ash is our resident expert on narcissistic abuse. And she's made several appearances and shared her experience and her learning. I need to get a hold of her soon. We need an update on her life. There's never a dull moment. So Ash said many times that one of the problems with people in our society today is that there's no personal accountability for behavior, that people need to reflect upon themselves and see and own their part in the lives that they create for themselves. Now, Louise Hay says something very similar when talking about resentment, criticism, guilt, and fear. So Ms. Hay says, and I quote again, oh my gosh, I'm such a word nerd, but I love this. So I quote, these 4 things, and she's talking about resentment, criticism, guilt, and fear, cause the major problems in our bodies and in our lives. These feelings come from blaming others and not taking responsibility for our own experiences. if we are responsible for everything in our lives, then there's no one to blame. Whatever is happening out there is only a mirror of our own inner thinking. I am not condoning other people's poor behavior, but it is our beliefs that attract people who will treat us that way. If you find yourself saying, everyone always does such and such to me, criticizes me, is never there for me, uses me like a doormat, abuses me, then this is your pattern, not their pattern. This is some thought that there's some thought in you that attracts people who exhibit this behavior. And when you no longer think that way, they will go elsewhere and do that to someone else. You will no longer attract them. This really hit home for me because I can remember back in the day describing myself and feeling as though I was a doormat for other people. Now thankfully that's the version of Tracy that I shedded. I am no longer a doormat for people. But that really hit home. And then Susie Wu talked about that as well on the show here when she was saying how understanding that she allowed herself to be horribly abused, meaning on some level she agreed with it based on her own thoughts and beliefs about herself, was very humbling and a very hard pill for her to swallow, but was true nonetheless. So both Susie and I, we had to change all of that. So Louise Hay, she's the queen of positive affirmations. And, she said that along her own personal journey, she became aware of self-criticism that she had, and she just began babbling affirmations like crazy. And she says if you say it enough and repeat it enough, then it will become true to you. It'll become your reality. So after babbling affirmations, it caused her to go into exploring and understanding the way she influenced her own life and forgiving. She forgave herself, she forgave other people in her life, and that led to her own healing. And again, she has lots of books. So before we take a break, and we do need to take a break, I just want to say I remember working with a teenage girl who just was so traumatized and so hurt internally that one day in therapy I took her hand and I just decided to speak truths to her and talk about the beautiful human being she was and the potential she had and the love and light that existed within her. And as I did that, she had tears in her eyes, and I could see that she was not able to receive this. And I realized that was a difficulty with her thoughts and beliefs that were actually programmed into her, that were not allowing that in. So in this next segment, we're going to talk about programmed beliefs and the programming that exists within us. So, but for right now, we need to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, I will be exploring the teachings of the incredible Dr. Joe Dispenza and talking about programming. So you're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. Please join me after the break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm talking today about how we can use our incredible imagination to create an incredible life for ourselves, create the life that we really want. So in the last segment, I talked about using our imagination in a conscious mind state through affirmations and changing our thoughts. And I referenced the work of self-help phenomenon, Louise Hay, and how she encouraged people to use affirmations and speak it until it becomes true. You can find her work online anywhere and start today with workbooks and reading her books and whatnot. She just has so many different exercises to do to start practicing this and building that muscle. So when I was preparing for this episode, I thought about last week's episode where Susie Wu was on the show. Now, we were talking at one point about, or I was saying at one point, how when, in using affirmations, when I have asked a client to look in a mirror and say, I love myself, that often is too difficult for them. And they say they can't do that. So I recommend that they start by just looking in the mirror and smiling at themselves. And when I said that, Susie was like, well, yeah, they can't lie to themselves. And I don't know if you could tell when she said that, but I was kind of like, whoa, what? In my head, I'm like, what? You can't lie to yourself? I've been taught something different. So now I've invested considerable time studying the teachings of the great Marissa Peer, who is the founder and developer of the Rapid Transformational Therapy technique, which is a model of hypnotherapy that I am certified in and that I love practicing. Now, Marissa, she wrote a whole book called Tell Yourself a Better Lie. And Marissa totally says that we can lie to ourselves, and she bases this on the premise that we're already lying to ourselves. So why not just tell a better lie? We're already lying to ourselves by saying we're not enough and that we're not worthy of love and we're not lovable. We are failures. All of those negative beliefs that we imagine, we're already doing it. So why not tell yourself something better? Now, I did agree with Susie when she said that if it feels like too much of a lie, we can tweak it. We can tweak that affirmation and say something like, look in the mirror and say something like, every day I love myself a little bit more. So if that feels more comfortable for you, then by all means start there, but do start. All right, so now let's talk about the incredible work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Holy cow, what an incredible human being this guy is. I actually, when I listen to him and read his books and do all this learning from him, I have these moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be like him. I wish I was as smart as him. And then I bring that limiting belief to my conscious awareness. And I'm like, Tracy, no, practice what you preach. You are great in your own right. And you have your own brilliant mind. And everything is good. All right, but this guy is truly amazing. If you're not familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, he is a best-selling author and a researcher of epigenetics, quantum physics, and neuroscience, and he specializes in the mind-body connection. He has performed scientific research on the effects of meditation in healing chronic health conditions and even terminal diseases. This stuff is amazing. His model of change involves breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing the new self. And he teaches people how to do this through meditation. So even scientifically measures the changes in a person's brain that comes as a result of his recommended interventions. So he says that the greatest habit we have to break is the habit of being ourselves. Isn't that so true? So a habit is something that we have done or thought so many times that our bodies know how to do it better than our conscious mind even knows how to do it. It becomes programmed into our subconscious minds. These are automatic thoughts, behaviors, emotions that are acquired through repetition. So I'll say it again. The greatest habit we have to break is the habit of being ourselves. Breaking these habits requires considerable imagination. He says that 95% of how we are by the age of 35 is programmed into us. 95% by the age of 35. Holy cow. So what does it mean for a thought, behavior, and emotion to become programmed? Basically, it means that if you keep thinking, behaving, and feeling the same way repeatedly, your biology becomes hardwired in your brain or programmed. So one of the principles of neuroscience is nerve cells that fire together wire together. So to change something that is programmed into your brain, you have to create a new vision or a goal. You have to change the way you think, feel, act. The programming is your unconscious thoughts. So this is, thoughts, behaviors, feelings, not just thoughts. If you can become conscious of the unconscious thoughts, for example, if you notice yourself thinking or speaking in a limiting way or behaving in a limiting way, in a habit way, if you can notice how you're feeling through that, notice it, you're no longer programmed, because this thought, behavior, feeling is now in your conscious mind, not in your unconscious mind. So I just gave an example of that when I was saying, I wish I could be Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's a thought in my conscious mind that was in my unconscious mind, not good enough, now is in my conscious mind. And with it in my conscious mind, I can say, no, you know what? I'm good enough. I'm great, brilliant in my own right. So that's an example of that. So he states the goal as being to become so conscious that we never go unconscious again. This takes incredible awareness and a lot of energy, but it is possible. Is it easy? Not necessarily. Is it life-changing? Absolutely. Can it be done? Absolutely. A big problem that we as humans have is that we lose our free will, our agency, our choice to these programmed thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So I feel like that's kind of what Bob Proctor was saying when he said the average person tiptoes through life hoping to make it safely to death, right? We lose our agency, we lose our free will, we lose our choice to program thoughts. So now there are some useful habits. There's some useful habits that we have that, like, I don't know, driving is a useful habit. At one point we had to teach our mind to drive, and now it becomes more of a memory in our body that we can do somewhat automatically. But what if we have less useful habits, like repeatedly criticizing ourselves, judging ourselves, assigning blame to others? If you do this repeatedly, you will become programmed to do this, and it will become an unconscious thought and action. You get good at what you do repeatedly. So what if you draw your awareness to this, bringing this thought into your conscious mind and set a goal to change? As with anything else, it's going to be uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. But these are things that Dr. Joe Dispenza is an expert on, researching human change and human transformation. He talks about how he has seen people who have suffered horrific abuse and trauma completely freed from their past. He said that there's no limit when you believe in yourself and when you believe in possibility. That takes imagination. You have to be able to imagine the infinite possibilities. So when I was talking about the teenager who couldn't receive the good things about herself and the infinite possibility within herself, it was because she was limited by her programmed beliefs, and her imagination could not go to a place of possibility. So anyways, he's witnessed incredible changes in people's biology as a result of this. So in his 7-day immersive experiences that he puts on, he has seen conditions like blindness, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injuries, deafness, strokes, all of these things cured. They are healed. So he even said that in one of his events, there was a woman who had her thyroid removed. And this woman, through the power of her mind, grew a new thyroid. Like, this is scientifically proven, things that you would never think could happen. So doing the work to change, not to heal, because the healing comes as a result of the change. It takes commitment, uncompromising dedication, persistence to meditative practices and visualization, using our incredible imaginations to create the change. Basically reprogramming ourselves to possibility, breaking through the unconscious, becoming conscious of new possibilities, imagining these possibilities even existing. So, how many times do we go to the doctor and receive nothing but the worst case scenarios? Our beliefs for healing, for change, they're not even entertained. Now, I love my diabetes doctor, I really do. She's a really good doctor. But when I went to her and I said, "Hey, what do I need to do to reverse my type 1 diabetes?" She said, "Oh, you need to get a pancreas transplant." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I mean, what can I do? Like, what would it look like to reverse it so that I can tell my mind to do it?" And she said, "It's impossible. You can't do that." She wouldn't even tell me what the process would be, what my body would have to do to fire up my pancreas again. So, so I said, "Okay, well, I'll figure it out myself, right? I can do it. I'm going to do it." So, I learned this from my dad at an early age. He was the greatest demonstration of the power of the mind. And he used to uh, tell me that pain is what you make of it, that it actually exists in your mind more so than in your body. And he did this so that I could manage my own pain. Now, he used to tell me when I was a baby, I went through multiple surgeries on my hips and my bones as an infant. And he used to tell me how after every surgery, it took one baby aspirin administered one time only for the pain that I had. And I was in body casts up to my armpits after these surgeries. And it was just one baby aspirin that I needed. And he told me that's because my mind didn't know that I was supposed to be in incredible pain, so I didn't have incredible pain. And he told me that we can regulate our experience of pain with our minds. And I know he did that so that I wouldn't experience a lifetime of hip pain. And I so appreciate that. My mom also, she had breast cancer when she was in her early 50s, and she has been completely cancer-free for 30 plus years. I would love to talk about her thoughts and her experience about that and see if maybe her and my dad had similar beliefs about healing themselves. So my dad knew this because he'd broken his neck more than once in his lifetime, and more than once in his lifetime he had been told that he wouldn't walk again. And he was like, "No, I want to walk, and I'm going to." And he walked up until the day he died at 68. So now Dr. Joe does these 7-day immersive experiences during which he teaches practices like that with mind-body connection. He said that at the end of a 7-day intensive immersive experience in Denver, there was a man who was in a wheelchair. He realized through this process that he had never loved himself, and he worked on loving himself, the possibility of having true love and acceptance for himself, and he grew that love and acceptance for himself during this experience. And towards the end of the training, he actually stood up out of his wheelchair and he walked. So then there were other people who were also confined to a wheelchair who heard his story and saw him get up and walk, and that opened their imaginations up to their own potential and possibility, and they got up and walked as well. So Dr. Joe calls this witnessing people doing the uncommon. It's amazing. And this all through a process of meditation, visualization, imagining possibility. I imagine the possibility of reversing my diabetes, and that's how I'll do it. So all of Dr. Joe's work is based in science, not woo-woo. In fact, it combines neuroscience, quantum physics, epigenetics, neuroendocrinology, psychoneuroendocrinology, which I believe is mind-body connection, and electromagnetics. And he teaches people all about this. He calls it the contemporary version of mysticism. I love that. And he teaches it. And then he has people experience it. And in doing so, this information gets hardwired into their brains so that they can experience and move into possibility and create incredible change, biological change in themselves. So he says the way people get their behaviors in this way, he gets people's behaviors to match their intentions and their actions to match their thoughts, and their mind and body working together. A new experience creates moments where neurons begin to string together, which in turn causes the brain to have a chemical reaction, which means a feeling or emotion is created. And that feeling and emotion is what solidifies this experience. And that is the moment that you feel unlimited, you feel whole. This is the moment of infinite possibility. Neurochemically, you can condition your mind and body to work as one. And with repeated experience, it'll become unconscious. So here's what Joe Dispenza describes as the truth. And this is kind of a long quote, but I love it. Every thought makes a chemical, and every thought can make you feel good or bad. If 90% of your thoughts, the thoughts that we think, are the same thoughts that we thought the day before, same thoughts lead to the same choices lead to the same behaviors will create the same experiences produce the same emotions, and the same emotions influence the person's same thoughts and their biology, their neurocircuitry, their neurochemistry, hormones, and even gene expression. It all stays the same because the person stays the same. He also says if you think differently and you learn new information and you have new thoughts, if you can make new choices and demonstrate new behaviors and create new experiences, arrive at new goals and feel new emotions, well, that's evolution. Unfortunately, it usually takes some kind of big crisis, a trauma, a disease, a betrayal, a loss, a diagnosis, some kind of lowest denominator that takes us to a feeling where nothing can make this awful feeling go away before we actually decide to change and look at possibility. He describes that as being the human condition. There's this term in neuroscience is called metacognition, and it's that moment where you are no longer the program, that moment in which a better approach is being defined by a vision of what can be your future, holding your intention of the future, feeling the emotions of that future as though it's already happening. That is a moment of where our imagination is being utilized to its greatest potential, creating our greatest reality, and that's called metacognition. So that's an important place to go. So yeah, we can do this right now through meditation. You can go on Dr. Joe Dispenza's website and see different meditations. We have to stop waiting for something to come to us for it to happen. We can't wait for wealth to feel success. We can't wait for relationships, a new relationship to feel love. We can't wait for a mystical experience to feel awe. We can't wait for healing to feel whole. We have to create it ourselves. We have to do that for ourselves. So, gosh, there's so much great Dr. Joe Dispenza information. But I'm going to leave it at that for now. I do want to say that if I see the client, the teenage girl again that I was seeing before, if I ever see her again, I think she's an adult now, but if I were to see her again, when I would probably do things a little differently, where I would put her in somewhat of a hypnotic trance state and a meditative state, a theta brainwave state, so that we could access her subconscious mind, get past, those conscious thoughts that were limiting and blocking her from any other possibility. I would go into her subconscious mind and instill that possibility in her for something different, for a different way to view herself. And then all of that, I'd paint a picture to utilize her imagination that would open her mind up to a different experience, open her mind up to possibility, and to really using her fullest potential. So I hope I have the opportunity to do that with her someday. All right, so just to close out this episode, I just want to do one more quote, going back to the amazing words of Bob Proctor, and I'm going to quote again. Build beautiful images in your mind of how you want to live, and then hold those pictures there and live that way. The imagination, you've got one, It's a creative tool. It deals with the invisible side of your personality. If you keep your imagination alive, keep it active, you're going to have a phenomenal life. Life can get better every day, and it will get better every day through the proper use of your imagination. End quote. All right. Well, we are almost out of time today. Thank you so much for listening. I know that this has been a lot, and I hope that I've proven my point that we can create anything through the amazing use of our imagination. We can start doing this now. You can check out these different websites of people that have these resources out there that can get you started today. And I strongly encourage you to do that, because looking at this whole other world of possibilities, imagining a world of possibilities, just getting rid of that belief that you have to see it to believe it. No, no, no. You have to imagine it to believe it. You have to imagine it and trust what comes through your beautiful imagination. That is spirituality. So trust all of that. All right. So my plan for next week is to have the amazing Ash Benavides back on the show. And so we can kind of hear an update on her, and we can talk about maybe some of her own use of her imagination. So if you would like to contact me, please do so at tcholistichealing.com. There you can find services I provide. Just you can email me. I'd love to hear from you. That's tcholistichealing.com. And that also has links to my YouTube and social media sites. So until next time, you have been watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.